In economics, there is a theory called the law of diminishing marginal utility. The theory goes something like this. Imagine you have an ice cream, and it's one of your favorites. You haven't had it in a long time, so to bite into it is a nirvana-inducing experience. But when you come back a week later expecting the same result, it's lessened. As you continue to come back, your pleasure and enjoyment of the ice cream, even if it is your favorite, will continue to decrease as your brain gets used to tasting this wonderful flavor over and over. The same thing happens with albums, TV shows, and yes, even video games. Unfortunately, Obsidian is starting to run into this with their latest DLC, Murder on Eridanos, which, while fun, is starting to feel the strain of the franchise as a whole. First things first, this DLC has a lot of content. The developers at Obsidian made sure to fit everything into these two DLC packages because both of them are nearing 10 hours each. Whereas the scope of the first DLC was far more sprawling, as players hopped from planet to planet in a more galactic affair, this time you are staying on Eridanos itself, with any diversions elsewhere entirely up to you. You are to investigate the murder of Halcyon Helen, a character who appears in serials or serialized programs throughout the galaxy. The circumstances surrounding her murder are well written, and there are plenty of twists for all of you murder mystery fans out there. For example, I'm happy to report that the ending is not something I saw coming. That said, while the Outer World's second outing takes place only on one planet, Obsidian is pushing the game to its limits in terms of the map size. Their AA DLC is unable to function without constant loading screens, both while you're going into the buildings and, oddly, as you run through the map itself. But, as was the case with Peril on Gorgon, this is the sticking point. Loading screens. When loading screens can take between 30 seconds to a minute, it really starts to add up. These times may not sound bad until you realize that these loading screens have to be accessed constantly throughout your 8 to 10 hour adventure. It can turn even the best, most pulse-pounding moments into a "come on, really?" Especially when you die and have to deal with a loading screen, only to realize you forgot to save outside the building you respawned in because the game does not autosave nearly as often as it should, and therefore need to go back outside and experience, you guessed it, another loading screen for a minute. That said, Eridanos is quite a pretty planet, and it is filled with many interesting NPCs that often have nearly captivating, if not spellbinding, dialogue. It's sharp, witty, and there is one character who I almost immediately wanted more of. It's clear to me that there is an incredibly talented team of writers behind this game, and it's what keeps this DLC together, because otherwise, this is the same Outer Worlds you've played twice before now. The combat can be punishing. At this point, you're expected to be at level 30 or higher, which, while I still got absolutely shredded by certain enemies if I didn't come prepared. The enemies themselves are mostly the same, with a couple of exceptions which include the enemies that are being mind controlled, but those exceptions and the moral implications that come from killing them are never delved into nearly as much as they should be, with only a few glancing remarks made about you killing them. Although some of the new weapons you get in your quest to rid Eridanos of the bad guys, whoever that may be for your character at this point, are quite interesting and inventive. Ultimately, this is another competent expansion for an already excellent game, but the formula is starting to wear thin. Long load screens, overly punishing enemies, and some technical hiccups can't be completely saved by the as usual and expected at this point excellent writing and character work. This is still a DLC to check out, but I would walk, not run, to your nearest online store to pick it up. Thankfully, Obsidian is still working on a full-time sequel, as far as I know. There are no more DLC adventures, which means perhaps the formula will get a revitalization. Let's just hope it doesn't use any of Rizzo's methods to keep the franchise going. What do you think? That was pretty good. I haven't read one of those in a while. That was fun. This is where I say something really witty, and James, you'll love it. I got nothing. I just woke up. I woke up like a couple hours ago, so I got nothing. Okay, bye.